Son gets extremely bullied by classmates. When school refuses to step in, the dad takes matters in his own hands. Meet Jake, a high school student whose life took a drastic turn when he became the target of relentless bullying. Picture him sitting alone in a crowded schoolyard, his eyes downcast as the laughter of his classmates ring out behind him. This is where our story begins, a tale of pain, resilience, and the unwavering love of a father who refuses to stand by idly. Jake wasn't always like this. He used to be full of life, a cheerful kid who loved going to school. But as he entered high school, things began to change. The bullying started slowly at first, with little jabs and jokes that seemed harmless. But soon it escalated into something much more sinister. Jake's classmates, led by Tom, Sarah, and Mike, turned his school days into a nightmare. Welcome back to PlotTwister. Before we unravel today's mystery, don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you're always in the loop. Every day, Jake faced new humiliations. He was stripped in the hallways, had his belongings taken and destroyed, and was the constant target of cruel jokes. These weren't just pranks, they were deliberate acts meant to break him down. Despite trying to hide his pain, it became harder every day. The once vibrant and happy Jake now spent his days dreading the moment he had to step into school. At home, Jake's father, Mark, started noticing the changes in his son. The bruises, the sudden silence, the forced smiles were all signs that something was terribly wrong. Mark tried to talk to Jake, but he would always brush it off, saying he was fine or that he just had a rough day. But a father knows when his child is suffering, and Mark couldn't ignore it any longer. Determined to help his son, Mark scheduled a meeting with Principal Edwards. He hoped that the school would take immediate action to stop the bullying. However, the meeting did not go as planned. Principal Edwards downplayed the situation, suggesting that Jake might be overreacting or misinterpreting his classmates' behavior. It was a typical case of boys will be boys, and Mark left the meeting feeling frustrated and helpless. Without the intervention of the school, the bullying intensified. Jake's grades began to slip and his once bright eyes were now filled with a sadness that broke Mark's heart. Every day was a new battle for Jake, and he began to lose hope that things would ever get better. The school, the place that was supposed to be a safe haven for learning and growth, had become a place of fear and torment. Mark couldn't stand to see his son suffer any longer. He tried to support Jake as best as he could, offering words of encouragement and spending more time with him. But he knew that words alone weren't enough. The school's failure to act had left Jake vulnerable, and it was clear that something needed to be done to protect him. Mark was determined to find a way to end his son's torment, no matter what it took. This story begins with a father's desperate determination to save his son. Mark knew that he couldn't rely on the school, and that meant he would have to take matters into his own hands. What follows is a journey of resilience, courage, and the power of a parent's love in the face of overwhelming adversity. Mark's frustration grew with each passing day. He saw the toll the bullying was taking on Jake, and it pained him deeply. Jake's once cheerful demeanor was replaced with anxiety and sadness. The bruises and the silence at the dinner table were unbearable. Mark knew he couldn't let this continue. Desperation led Mark to spend countless hours researching anti-bullying policies, looking up legal options, and reading about other parents' experiences. He needed to understand what he could do to protect his son. Late into the night, he sat at his computer, determined to find a solution. Mark reached out to Dr. Carter, a child psychologist known for dealing with bullying cases. During their meeting, Dr. Carter listened intently as Mark described Jake's situation. She provided valuable insights into the psychological impact of bullying and offered strategies to help Jake cope. Mark left the meeting feeling slightly more equipped, but still overwhelmed by the enormity of the problem. Back at home, things were getting worse for Jake. One evening, Jake returned home more dejected than usual. When Mark pressed him, Jake broke down, revealing the full extent of the bullying he faced daily. Hearing his son's anguish shattered Mark's heart. He held Jake, promising that they would find a way through this, but inside, Mark felt a burning frustration at the school's inaction. Mark's resolve hardened. He realized that he could not rely on the school or wait for them to act. He had to take control of the situation to protect his son. The next day, Mark took off from work and visited the school again, this time with a steely determination. He demanded another meeting with Principal Edwards, who reluctantly agreed to see him. During the meeting, Mark presented the documented incidents of bullying, the visible bruises, and even Jake's deteriorating mental state. Principal Edwards remained indifferent, sticking to the same dismissive stance. This time, Mark did not hold back his frustration. He made it clear that the school's failure to act was unacceptable and that he would take further necessary steps if he had to. Despite his efforts, the principal's response was lukewarm, leaving Mark feeling more isolated and angry. Determined to find another way, Mark began speaking with other parents in the community, some of whom had children who had also faced bullying. He discovered that his family was not alone. Many others had experienced similar issues with the school's handling of bullying. These conversations fueled Mark's determination to seek justice not just for Jake, but for all affected children. Mark's conversations with other parents revealed a pattern of neglect and inaction from the school. Realizing the scope of the problem, Mark felt a renewed sense of purpose. He knew he had to do something drastic to make a real change. The frustration he felt was now a driving force, pushing him to act decisively. With a heavy heart but a clear mind, Mark committed himself to protecting his son at all costs. He began to take concrete steps to gather evidence, support Jake emotionally, and prepare for the challenges ahead. The love for his son and the desire to see him safe and happy gave Mark the strength he needed to face the obstacles before them. What lay ahead was uncertain, but Mark was ready to fight for Jake's future. Mark's determination to protect Jake led him to take decisive action. He knew he had to gather undeniable evidence of the bullying to hold the school accountable. Late one night, after making sure Jake was asleep, Mark set up hidden cameras in Jake's backpack and around common bullying spots in the school. The following days were excruciating for Mark as he watched the footage. He saw firsthand the cruel and relentless bullying Jake endured. Every trip, shove, and taunt was captured on video. The footage was heart-wrenching, but it fueled Mark's resolve to put an end to his nightmare. With the evidence in hand, Mark knew he needed to amplify his voice. He contacted local news stations and bloggers, sharing Jake's story and the footage he had gathered. The response was immediate and overwhelming, reporters showing up at his doorstep eager to cover the story. Mark's phone buzzed constantly with calls from journalists and concerned parents. The media coverage was immense pressure on the school. Principal Edwards and the school board were bombarded with calls and emails from outraged community members. The story spread quickly, igniting a firestorm of public outrage. Mark's actions had brought the issue into the spotlight, and there was no turning back. Mark didn't stop there. He organized a community meeting inviting parents, students, and local officials to discuss the bullying problem and the school's inadequate response. The room was packed and the emotions ran high as parents shared their children's experiences. Jake, though nervous, stood beside his father, drawing strength from the community's support. At the meeting, Mark presented the video evidence to the attendees. Gasps and murmurs filled the room as people watched the footage. The undeniable proof of the bullying moved everyone, and the collective anger towards the school's inaction was palpable. The community rallied behind Jake and Mark, demanding immediate changes. The school could no longer ignore the issue. Under immense public pressure, Principal Edwards announced a series of new anti-bullying measures. These included stricter enforcement of anti-bullying policies, mandatory training for teachers and staff, and increased support for students who were being bullied. The school also established a task force to monitor and address bullying incidents promptly. Meanwhile, the bullies, Tom, Sarah, and Mike, faced serious consequences. The school disciplined them and their parents were called in for meetings. The impact of their actions was made clear, and they were required to attend counseling sessions to address their behavior. The bullying stopped and Jake finally had some respite. Jake's recovery began slowly. He attended therapy sessions to help rebuild his confidence and deal with the trauma he had experienced. The community support played a crucial role in his healing process. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers reached out with kind words and gestures, showing Jake that he was not alone. Mark felt a sense of relief and satisfaction. His actions had not only protected his son, but had also brought about meaningful change in the school. The journey had been tough, but it was worth every effort. Mark knew that by taking a stand, he had made a difference in Jake's life and in the lives of other students facing similar challenges. The battle was far from over, but for the first time in a long while, there was hope. The public outcry had done its job. The school administration could no longer sweep the issue under the rug. Principal Edwards, facing mounting pressure, announced a series of new measures to combat bullying. These included zero-tolerance policies, mandatory anti-bullying training for teachers, and support programs for victims. The changes were a direct result of Mark's relentless efforts and the overwhelming support from the community. The bullies, Tom, Sarah, and Mike, faced immediate disciplinary actions. They were suspended from school and required to attend counseling sessions. Their parents were also brought into the picture, forced to confront the reality of their children's actions. It was a harsh but necessary step to ensure that the bullying stopped and to prevent it from happening to anyone else. Jake slowly began to recover. He started attending therapy sessions with Dr. Carter, who helped him work through the trauma he had experienced. These sessions were tough, but they gave Jake a safe space to express his feelings and start the healing process. The change in Jake was gradual but noticeable. He began to smile more and even showed interest in activities he used to love. Mark watched his son progress with a mix of relief and pride. The journey had been long and painful, but seeing Jake regain his confidence made it all worth it. Mark knew that his battle wasn't just for Jake. It was for every child who had ever felt powerless against bullies. His actions had sparked a change that was already making the school a safer place for everyone. The school's new policies included regular anti-bullying workshops and the establishment of a peer support network. Students were encouraged to speak up if they saw someone being bullied, creating a community of vigilance and support. The atmosphere at the school began to shift. What was once a place of fear for Jake and others like him was slowly becoming a place of solidarity and safety. The community support didn't wane. Parents, students, and teachers came together to ensure that the new measures were implemented effectively. Mark became a vocal advocate for anti-bullying initiatives, sharing his and Jake's story at school board meetings and community events. His message was clear: no child should have to endure what Jake had gone through. Jake's confidence grew with each passing day. He started participating in school activities again, finding joy in things he once loved. His grades improved, and he even made new friends who supported him. The transformation was remarkable, and it was clear that the worst was behind him. Mark felt a sense of justice. He had fought for his son, and in doing so, had brought about significant change. The school was now a safer environment, and the community was more aware and proactive about bullying. Mark knew that the fight against bullying was ongoing, but the steps they had taken were a solid foundation for the future. In the end, the story of Jake and Mark was one of resilience and the power of love. They had faced a seemingly insurmountable challenge and emerged stronger. Jake's torment had been turned into a catalyst for change, proving that even in the darkest of times, it can lead to brighter days. The journey was far from over, but with the support of his father and the community, Jake was ready to face whatever came next. As the dust settled, the impact of Mark's actions and the community's support became increasingly clear. Jake's life was turning around. The bullying had stopped, and the school had implemented robust measures to prevent future incidents. Jake felt safer and more confident, his days no longer overshadowed by fear. Mark reflected on the journey they had been through, the nights spent worrying, the meetings with indifferent school officials, and the overwhelming frustration had all led to this moment. He felt a deep sense of accomplishment knowing he had done everything possible to protect his son. Mark's determination had not only saved Jake but also paved the way for a safer environment for all students. One day, Jake came home with a broad smile, holding a piece of paper. It was an invitation to speak at a school assembly about his experience and the changes that had been made. Jake was nervous but also excited. This was his chance to use his voice to help others who might be going through what he had endured. With his father's encouragement, Jake agreed to speak. The day of the assembly arrived. The auditorium was packed with students, teachers, and parents. Jake stepped onto the stage, his heart pounding, but his resolve firm. He spoke about his experiences, the pain of being bullied, and the fear that had once consumed him. He also spoke about the importance of speaking up and the power of support from family and community. Jake's speech was met with applause and even some tears. It was a powerful moment, one that underscored the importance of the changes that had been made. Jake's courage to stand up and share his story inspired many, reinforcing the message that no one should suffer in silence. Mark watched with pride as his son spoke. He saw the boy who had once been broken by bullying now standing tall, using his voice to make a difference. It was a testament to Jake's strength and resilience, as well as to the power of parents' love and determination. The school continued to build on the changes that had been implemented. Anti-bullying campaigns became a regular part of school life, and students were encouraged to support one another. The sense of community grew stronger, and incidents of bullying decreased significantly. The school had transformed into a place where students felt safe and valued. Mark's role as an advocate didn't end. He continued to speak at events, sharing their story and encouraging other parents to stand up for their children. He worked with local organizations to promote anti-bullying initiatives and provide support for families dealing with similar issues. Mark's efforts helped to create a network of support that extended beyond the school, benefiting the wider community. Jake's journey was far from over, but he faced the future with newfound confidence. He had learned valuable lessons about resilience, courage, and the importance of speaking up. With his father's unwavering support and the changes that had been made at school, Jake was ready to embrace new opportunities and challenges. In the end, the story of Jake and Mark serves as a powerful reminder of the impact one person can make. Mark's determination to protect his son led to significant changes that benefited many. Their journey was a testament to the power of love, resilience, and community. Jake's torment had been turned into a force for good, ensuring that no other child would have to endure what he had gone through. It was a journey of pain and struggle, but ultimately one of hope and triumph. What are your thoughts on the twist we uncovered today? Comment your ideas below. Make sure to like and subscribe for a daily dose of drama and mystery. See you later with another twist.